welcome to another great tutorial which we are covering this series about migrating user data in Windows. Today we're going to be looking at how to generate a configuration file to simply manage our data migration. This will help us a lot in terms of moving data from the old computer to the new computer. So here I have Windows 8 computer. Let's take a look at the version of this operating system. We type in WinVer. Click on that. Of course, you see we have Windows 8 here. This Windows 8 is a very old computer, and I've been using this for a while. As you can see, I have lots of application on the taskbar that I use on a daily basis. I also have on my desktop here, I have different shortcuts placed on the desktop. Basically, I have also in a working directory in my document, I have different types of files. So we're going to be migrating this to another computer, which is a Windows 10. This one is a Windows 10 Enterprise evaluation computer. So now, before we actually start, there are things that I want to cover real quick. If you remember, during our last tutorial we downloaded Windows ADK. That, if you remember, we copied that into AMD 64, and I mentioned something that we're going to be using the ScanState. As you can see, we're going to be also using the load state. And one thing I forgot to mention is also we're going to be using 3 other files from here, which is called MIG app, and the second one is MIG docs, and also the third one is not created yet. It's called a config file. A config file is simply to plan and manage our migration. So the config.XML file, Microsoft has done a very fantastic job in explaining what exactly it is. So as you see on this page, in the Microsoft documentation, it is simply an optional user state migration tool, the USMT file, that you can create using the syntax /geoconfig option with the ScanState execution tool, as I will be explaining to you later in this video. So yeah, check out this page. I will leave a link for you below so that you can understand what config.xml file does, and you can know how it's actually useful for your migration. So inside the config file is a template that Microsoft has already built, but you can customize it to match your needs. We demonstrate that. Also, when we look at this MIG, let's go and see the component of this MIG app, what's inside. So you click on it, and it's very, I think it's you can open it up with I'll try Notepad. You see it's a bunch of templates, it's a bunch of XML files that Microsoft gave to everyone. This one I'm not going to advise you to customize, because you probably will be destroying your migration if you do so. And the reason why I opened that up, let's go to see my MIG docs. MIG docs is basically also not really, it's not user it's not friendly, it's not user friendly. So this is the reason why we're going to be using a config file. A config file is very readable. It's easy to read what's inside rather than just going through different types of XML here. So let's go and start our migration now. Okay, all right, I'm going to close out from this, and it's Windows 8, which is our old computer. I have copied also the Windows ADK that we downloaded on our last lesson. I've copied that into a path also here. I copy that onto the C folder, I believe, and I name it USMT. So inside the USMT, we have our ScanState component, we have our load state component as well. So to basically start the migration, we'll close this since we already know the location of the USMT. We close out of that, and we have to make sure that all of the users inside this computer, they must be logged out. Okay, that's one point. Secondly, you have to also make sure you log in as an administrator. All right, that's step number 2. You also make sure that you can bring up a PowerShell command as an administrator. So you will go and start PowerShell and run as administrator. Let's launch that. I need to log in real quick through the domain and administrator. Okay, and password. Okay. All right. So we're going to be using PowerShell a lot in this lesson to move our user data. So once you've launched that, check who are you logging as. Okay, you have to be logged in as an administrator because it's very, very important. If you're not logged in as an administrator, if you don't have the correct permission, you will not be able to move any data. All right, so let's see. So I'm logging as an administrator here, which is good. I'm going to minimize that, and I already know where my USMT files are. Okay, so one more thing before we start, let's go and check for how many users we have on this old computer. So I will just go into, let's see, how do you check how many users you have on a computer? So go to C, go to users, and here are the list of the people that have logged in to this old computer. So we have an administrator, we have a domain user called Akin, we have public user, we have TechAkin, that's another user, and then we have a temp user. Another way we can find out is by right clicking on this PC, go to properties, and then go to advanced system settings. On the advanced system settings, click, there are 3, there's a performance, there's user profiles, and there's startup and recovery. Look on the user profile section and click on settings. Okay, once you click on settings, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4 users. So far throughout the lifetime of this old computer, 4 people have already logged in. There is one domain user here, there is another one here, another one here, another one here, and that's how to recognize how many people have logged into a computer. So go ahead and cancel out of that, close all that, and then close that as well. So the method that we're going to be using today is migrating my user data and state using a network share. All right, this method is best if you have been, say for example, assigned a new computer to you at work, or maybe you just want to move your settings at home. So maybe you have 2 laptops at home, one is very old and one is very new. You want to make sure that you move all your old settings from your old computer into your new computer that you just bought. Now, to begin moving your data and other settings that you have, I've already mentioned before, you have to log in as an administrator on your old computer. Make sure that no one is also logged in. All right, also make sure that some files are backed up according to our last lesson, and then go and copy your ADK files. You can copy that into a USB or external drive and plug it to your old computer and put it in a path on a C drive. Now the first thing we want to do is to create a config file, all right, to manage our migration process. So basically we'll go and bring up our PowerShell, all right, and then let's clear out of that. So bring up the PowerShell as an administrator, and you have to go and find the path that you copy your ADK files. So change the directory. For example, I'll change my directory to C. I'm very sure it's inside the C, and the name is USMT. Okay, USMT. Okay, go into that path, and you can also check what's inside that path. Let's list the directory inside that path. Okay, great. So we can see that we're inside our ADK component folder. I can see the scan state here. I can see the load state. I can see migration app XML component. I can see user migration component as well. So the next thing to do is basically to just go and create our config file because if you look at right now, we don't have any config file to manage our migration. So you type in ScanState, you do a space, and then to create a config file you type generate, so gen config, okay, colon, and then you give it a name. You can give your configuration file any name you want, or you can just leave it as a default. You can type config.xml, okay, or in my case I'm just going to name it in something TechAkin.xml because that's very easy for me to find. So that command will generate a config file for us, and then space, and then you are going to specify whether you want to migrate your application or migrate your user or migrate your document. So you say /I colon, and should be a colon, mig app.xml, and then space /I colon mig user.xml. Okay, there are two things I have to explain here. We have a mig user and we have a mig docs. So if you look at the inside of your ADK folder, there is a mig user. That's mig docs XML. So mig docs and mig user is kind of like the same. Now there is going to be, when you want to use a mig user, is say for example you don't, on your computer you didn't use the Microsoft traditional working. So for example you didn't use my desktop, my documents, you know, music, pictures and video. You did not store your files inside of these traditional folders. You are the type of person that store, you know, anything. You just create one folder. You went and create a folder on your desktop, and then you store all your files there. If you are that type of person, you will use mig user. All right. If you are the type of person that basically you have basically conformed with Microsoft, you know, storage area, you've stored your pictures in pictures, you've stored your video in video files, then you will use a mig docs during this command. So I'm the type of person that basically I store everything everywhere. As you can see, I have different folders, working directory, and I have all this taskbar. So I will just select mig user, okay, and then I will go space, I will go and specify /v colon 13. The V means verbosity. So Microsoft has something that is called verbosity level. The verbosity level means you want to specify how detailed your event log is. So when we run this command, it will create an XML file, which is a config file for us, and at the same time it will create an event log to actually see step by step what happened. So if you want that event log to be very detailed or very minimal, you will specify your verbosity. So V13, I choose 13 here. I'm going to leave a link. I will leave a link below my video to show how you can learn about Microsoft verbosity level. For now, let's just go and create our configuration file. So enter and run that command. Okay, our configuration file has now been created. So you can see we run this command like ScanState, generate config file, name that config file TechAkin.XML, and then also migrate my application settings. We'll also say migrate all my user settings and the verbosity, and store everything inside the configuration file. Store all these settings inside a file and create that file and put it in the default location. So let's go check our configuration file, what that looks like. So you can basically type notepad.execution and the name TechAkin.XML, and you can open that up. As you can see, so we have created a configuration file to manage, to move all of our data from this old computer to the new computer. So let me try to format this a little bit and make it bigger so you can see. Alright, as you can see, we have our configuration file generated, and you can see this one is very easy to read and it's very easy to understand than just the ones we were looking at before, because we were looking at make apps, make docs. They were just bunch of XML. So this is a little bit readable and it's easy to understand what we're doing. So it says components with display name, the desktop migrate is yes, an ID. So it's telling you everything that is going to migrate: desktop, my documents, my pictures, my music, my video, shared music, shared documents. It says yes, 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 yes to all. So this is what I'm saying. If you wanted to configure, if you want to customize this, you can just say, shared video don't migrate. You can just change this to no. All right, you say change that to no. Once you change that to no, you can use this when you are running load state, when you are moving your data into that new computer. So, but for now, I'm just going to leave it at yes, and I will save that file and I will close that file. If you also want to see where that file is created or is generated, you can go inside your USMT folder and see USMT, and then you will see that configuration file is created for us here. That's fantastic. And now that's done, like I explained to you, you will check your configuration file once you've saved it and make sure it is in your default location inside of USMT. So you can see it's very easy to read. I mentioned that if you don't want to use a configuration file, you don't have to. Okay, it's actually optional. So to manage your migration process, you can just type ScanState in the command prompt and generate your data store, and there you go. You can just go like that without using any data store. But I will advise you to use a config file, because in case you want to customize what you migrate and what you don't want to migrate. If you made any changes to your config file, you need that. It's very important. You will need that during your load state. Also, make sure to check out the time codes or the chapters for this video, I place them in my description below if you want to just skip to a specific chapters of this video. Alright, so I'd like to thank you so much for watching this video. If this has been very helpful or informative to you, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will be releasing more video very soon. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye for now.